There is a fear that operates entirely in the background, living much deeper beneath the surface than our standard daily anxieties. Rejection is painful because someone looks at us and decides not to choose us. Abandonment is a different kind of wound. It happens when someone does choose you, establishes a bond, and then walks away. This specific pain relies on memory. You remember what it felt like to connect, to trust, and to believe that a safe harbor was permanent, right up until the moment it wasn't. When a bond breaks, a relationship ends, but abandonment goes further, causing the structural collapse of your baseline emotional safety. That specific damage is why it leaves such a lasting scar. Carrying that scar turns the human mind into a highly calibrated threat detection machine. Normal, everyday events trigger the alarms. A delayed text message feels ominous. A minor disagreement feels like an incoming breakup. A little physical distance is interpreted as imminent danger. Your brain isn't actually reacting to what's happening in the present moment. It is reacting to echoes of past losses that caught you off guard. The mind develops a flawed logic. It assumes that if you constantly predict the worst, if you ask what if they leave often enough, you can somehow shield yourself from future pain. But treating chronic worry as a protection strategy is a trap. It never creates physical or emotional safety. It only guarantees that you live in a state of perpetual exhaustion. A lot of this exhaustion stems from a core psychological misunderstanding. We confuse the feeling of attachment with the feeling of security. Attachment operates as a rigid demand for control. It says, I need you to stay for me to be okay. Security is a state of internal trust. It says, I hope you stay, but I know I will survive if things change. Facing this difference requires confronting a highly uncomfortable truth. No amount of perfection, no amount of anxiety, and no amount of controlling behavior can guarantee another person's permanence. Life and human nature simply do not offer guarantees of forever. Acknowledging that control is an illusion is the first difficult step in a long process. As you stop trying to manage the unmanageable, you stop draining your emotional energy on hypervigilance. Only then do you have the resources to start building a foundation that stays firm regardless of who enters or exits your life. We have to shift how we view the purpose of love itself. It was never designed to be an unbreakable contract. It is a temporary, shared experience. Look at anything beautiful in nature. A flower doesn't need to bloom forever to hold value. The fact that these moments are temporary is exactly what gives them their beauty. Their impermanence is what makes them precious. This natural law applies directly to human relationships. A connection can be profound, meaningful, and entirely successful, even if it only lasts for a season. When we stop treating relationships as assets that we must secure indefinitely, we free ourselves. We can finally experience the connection fully while it actually exists in the present moment. Behind the surface anxiety lies a catastrophic belief that your survival is tied to their presence. You don't just fear their departure, you fear that your own existence ends with it. But let's look closely at your own empirical track record. Think about your past heartbreaks, the difficult goodbyes, the endings you thought you couldn't endure. Those losses were intensely painful, yet here you are. You are still breathing, you are still growing. The mind's ultimate fear, that abandonment is a lethal threat to your survival, is an illusion. It is completely contradicted by your own proven history of resilience. Once you recognize your own survival rate is 100%, the core question shifts. You stop asking, how do I make sure nobody leaves? And start asking, how do I remain connected to myself if they do? True emotional security is built independently of other people. It is built exclusively by strengthening the relationship and trust you have with yourself. This internal anchor doesn't make future loss painless. It transforms the pain. It takes it from a threat of total destruction and turns it into an experience you are confident you can move through. You cannot control whether the people you love will stay forever, but you have absolute power over your ability to stay with yourself. And that internal loyalty is the only true security there is.